Going live with the audience here on Clifford Locks. It's multiple Millionaire Life Services, and we're going to talk about how you work on your business to get there. This guy's done this at a 92% success rate. So listen up. We'll be back in a couple seconds to go unleash that entrepreneur on the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube. Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Hey, welcome to Never Been Promoted Live here. We are going to have a fantastic conversation today around with Clifford Locks. He's the founder of Millionaire Life Services, which is, you think about it, right? He's able and has created multi-millionaires, several, at 92% success rate. So either he's really choosy, probably on his guests, or he really knows what he's doing, or a mixture of both. But we're going to find out. And the idea behind this is working on your business and not in it. There's a lot about that we'll dive into. Now, if this is your first time here or you've been here before, you're going to hear me repeat it. We are on a mission to help you get better at entrepreneurship, help you cut that tide, all the shit holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. And that could be the fears, the excuses, the senses of like the world owes you something, the sense of entitlement. You got to dump all that. And probably the thing you got to dump the most is your former self. You're going to have to grow a little in ways you never thought you would to really be successful. Shameless plug time for me, youtube.com/@neverbeenpromoted. Go give us subscribe, a like, do the notifications because we do go live quite often and we got a lot of cool content coming out all the time. And if you're listening to the podcast, take a moment and do a 5-star review. It is so important for us to help get our mission out there, to help the guests get exposure and just kind of grow the community that we're reaching out to go grow. So enough shameless plugs. Let's bring Mr. Cliff onto the stage. Mr. Cliff, welcome. How are you?
Thomas, it's great to see you. And I want to thank you for doing such a phenomenal job with the listeners. Compliments, when you look at the expertise and the depth of the topics you guests bring forth, you're making a large positive impact on the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I'm saluting you. And your listeners are brilliant. They're participating, they're listening, they're, making those changes in their lives and moving in a great direction. It's just fabulous.
I appreciate that. Whenever you start some new venture and you work with lots of business people, you have a vision and an idea. And there's other people who've done things out there like crazy successful people like Gary Vee or Alex Hormozy, and they're at a whole different level and a different type of idea. Where I really, and I appreciate what you say, because it's a lot of work. And I don't think people realize how much it is to produce a YouTube-based podcast when there's no monetary value to the company. Like it costs you money, basically, if you want to do this right. It'll probably cost us money for 3 years. But that's okay, because I'm investing in that, because 10 years from now, this is what I want to be doing full time. So I appreciate you saying that. Because you make multimillionaires, and I have to bet one of the tenets is you have to be prepared to invest in yourself and things in the future to get there. And we'll come back and circle to that. But my idea behind that was it really is to help people understand how to kind of measure their own success and define it, and not in the terms of some of these bigger guys like I had mentioned, but in your own terms of what does it really mean to be successful, and then how do you go chase and execute that And the truth is there's lots of little things that just kind of hold you back that just don't need to, that you think
Right.
that need to. And this is what we hope to get out of your conversation today and others. So I appreciate that. Do you want to do a start with kind of what your company does, like the one line pitch, and back up, set up your journey story a little bit, just so we can, so people go, why should I listen to you?
It's important. The value proposition of listening is really more about how do you ingrain some of the knowledge that we're going to share today, both of us, and bring forth the changes. And they're not radical changes. It's really about finding the vibrantness in yourself to understand that you are worthy of actually being a multimillionaire. And it's a lot easier than you think, even though you're in the day-to-day minutia of running your fine organization. We'll actually have a conversation of raising things up a bit, meaning working on the business, not as much as working in the business, and looking at the depth of the bench, how strong are the team members, who's adding value, who's actually subtracting value within the organization. And then the other piece of it, and I learned it really, really early, was the vision of success. Could we define that together? So if we get the vision of what you want and how you define success, then we can work it backwards, sort of the goal setting piece. And one of my early mentors, he asked me, to back this up. Brian Tracy was such an influential mentor to me.
Wow.
And then some of the self-improvement material that's out there in the community, you can go, either to the online, which is very, available. But when we invest in ourselves, it's not just for you and, for ourselves. It's realize we probably may have a spouse, we have children, we have an ecosystem, meaning our team members and their families. So that investment is really it's impactful for our tribe, meaning between the friends and colleagues and team members. So the investment you're making is unselfish because you're investing in you, but it has this impactfulness to the others around you. So, backstory, I came from very, very humble beginnings. I grew up in Long Island in New York. I have worked in flea markets to help pay my way through college. I'm an RIT graduate. I've had the fortune of building and founding 3 companies, and I've sold each one of them. The last company I sold to KKR, which is a large private equity firm in New York. And KKR is amazing. They're sitting with $553 billion in assets. Just get an idea about that.
Almost $1 trillion.
Crazy. I was blessed, think about it. I built something, I built it to sell. So that's one of the underlying takeaways today is you can build a company to sell it, and it creates great family wealth. Running the business gives you a lifestyle, but when you have a transaction, there's millions of dollars that will change hands for those that have equity in your company. So in my case, I got paid 11 times EBITDA, which is meaning I figured out something, and I'm going to share the secret because, Thomas, I really care about you and your listeners. The storytelling when you go to sell the company is really about the future income for that company, meaning someone's going to acquire you. They're looking for future cash flow that's going to be spun out of that company. So the ability to go out there and create a business model and a business plan that you can share with the potential acquiring company on the upside, meaning we're going to add additional streams of income, additional clients, enterprise type clients. That is the ability for them to recognize that we're paying you X amount of millions of dollars, but the company is going to have 2X, 3X, 4X over a period of time.
Yeah.
And that's really what they're buying. So think about the storytelling that's, very vibrant. So when you continue to grow the business and you're working at a high level and you're really working on the business, you're thinking about what's the future look like? Do I want to get taken out? Do I want to be acquired? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just the idea of, interesting.
It ties to your success word, I think, is what you're talking to. And I'd have to guess some people, a lot of people I have, we work with, the idea of just being 100,000-aire, just honestly, is like, oh, wow, if I could just make 100K a year out of my business. Like sometimes that's where people start, but you don't get to 1 million without starting with 1,000, and then 10, then 100.
Right.
And what you'll find is, and I'll speak from just, I lay it on the table. Our initial, and this is where you describe like, hey, selling a business idea. That has been our intent for my company, Instantly Relevant. However, to get started, where we started was, hey, we wanted to be an AI company, but we were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so turbulent. No, don't build an AI company because the updates are just too fast. You're behind the 8 ball as soon as you're As soon as you put your product out there, it's been updated by GPT. It's like it's over. And so we're like, all right, we pulled back and we became a services company.
Okay.
The problem with the services company, specifically when it's tied to like my knowledge and brand, is that's unscalable. I am the bottleneck. It's a brand business. It's a place to start. And we've built it to deep six figures. Don't get me wrong, in a few years, but that's nothing anyone's ever buying. So that being said, you take a reflection point of, hey, do I want to keep grinding through that? Or do I really want to sell it still? And I said, yeah, I do. So we started thinking of what problem can I solve and what process can I solve that doesn't require my brand, but yet my knowledge can be embedded in the process. And we've made this pivot. And what we do is we verify marketing services ability to deliver. It's a huge problem in the marketing. Like you're always running into a bad experience or you've heard about one. So we're like, hey, let's be like the top 1%, work with those agencies only. Excellent. And let's just make a really good brand, because then I know a PE can buy that'll have access to 1,000 other agencies we can't touch. They can expand the value prop. They already know they can take that and go, oh yeah, that's a good brand. I can do that and expand it down market. And then they'll see a 10x growth and we'll exit. My goal is let's just go get it to a couple million a year and then hold that for a year and go exit it for 8 to 10x.
Think about the margins. You have
margins. And the point is that they would take that with knowing they have an 8, 10x, and I'll get a huge check out of that. And then I'll focus full time on never been promoted, because that's where my heart is going. So
look, you may stay with the acquiring company for 18 months, so don't, those listeners.
I mean, I have to get a job. I'm not employable.
Well,
sir.
The brilliance behind the organization is got a understanding of the underlying value that you're bringing to the clients.
Yeah.
And that's impactful. So when you're thinking about the acquiring company, give some thoughts on the integration piece, meaning how the two companies going to come together. And then the other side of it is, how do we help the acquiring company actually get the value that they actually projected when they do the acquisition? Because many times, I didn't have the challenge, but sometimes there's an earn out, meaning you didn't get the full price in cash on the front end. Okay. And you will continue to work and continue, if you hit certain metrics, meaning numbers that you agree on sales, maybe it's profit, on EBITDA, you will continue to get a multiple, meaning you'll continue to get additional funds for that acquisition. So it's something in the future.
I've heard, though, avoid that. Almost every entrepreneur I've said, like, that usually goes sideways.
It depends. If you're going to stay and play and grow it and you want to execute on the business plan. But in my case, yeah, I took cash, no clawback, stayed with them, made sure it was successfully integrated into their.
Got paid to consult back into your own business type of idea. Like, hey, I'll do it from a consult. Because this is where a lot of the entrepreneurs I've interviewed said, and I understand that maybe for like a $1 billion purchase, like you're going to have some type of stick around and you're going to get this equity payout of some sort. But on a smaller purchase, what I've heard is, and I want to have this problem, is not only does the founder kind of lose interest, but they also become, hey, you're messing up my baby. And they become a little bit weirdly detached in a way that they become.
All right, Thomas, brilliant. You're bringing up something really important.
So yeah, I mean, because that's where I'm kind of like, I know personally,
have the emotional side.
Yeah,
the transaction.
I get it.
This is your baby. You brought it up. You're right. You're 100% right.
Chopping out my baby.
Well, remember, what does it look like? And you can have a discussion, our listeners, internally with your family, and our wives. A lot of times we've married some very, very bright women. And the idea is at the dinner table, we should be talking business with the children and with our wives and bounce things off, because there's an emotional side of it. Are you going to retire? No. Are you going to continue to work for that underlying entity? Most of us are entrepreneurs. We can't stop.
Start something new. Come on.
I'm fine with that. So, how do you can use an intermediary. You can use people like myself that will help you sell the business and handle that psychological aspect of, hey, I don't have to show up to work after this. What am I going to do with myself?
I think I'd like to dive into that. So I think working with someone like you is something I've never even considered. And let me explain why I think it and one of the reasons when we were coming on today, I was like, I have so many questions that we're not going to get to all of them. And I'm going to steal your time left and right. So, you're going to have to protect your time against me down the future. But the coaching and the network of someone like yourself who knows how to connect, it helps influence the business. And you're in the background, third party, 18 months now, you're like, man, I'm talking to this guy, and you're just kind of dropping these little notes where like, I got a few people that are super interested, but you're telling it in the backdrop of someone who's ultimately going to buy it, where they have this little FOMO. This is where a guy like you comes in super, because now you're creating a marketplace buzz for something you've helped build, and you're like, oh, I've got all the insight. These guys are killing it anyway, and just love working with them. What are you doing? They're like, wait, let's go back to that. Like, I want to buy that. Like, they're not really for sale. And like, where you start brokering deals 18 months out, and if the thing comes together, then someone like you gets the multiple, like your ROIs in spades, because you've set up the deal 18 months prior, because you already know where the trajectory is going to go, and you already know who should buy it, and you've already know how to tease it, and you've probably done it a dozen times with that person. And they know what you're doing, but they're like, I'm ready when you say it's ready. And then you just start defending the multiple differently.
Right.
So, because if I do it, they're gonna be like, I don't know who you are. If you did it and you're part of it, now you got some creds coming in and you're like, well, I can sell this to 15 people. Do you want it or not? So,
I mean, the ultimate is some sort of a bidding war between multiple acquirers. You'll get the max, but the other side of it is we have team members. They're going to need employment contracts. We're not looking to hurt anybody. We're actually looking to make sure they have continuity and they're doing well internally. So, when you're looking at this, and that integration piece is understanding the responsibility we have as the CEOs of the companies or founders to look after the team so the company continues to strive. So let me give you some specifics. I own 3 international new car shows. So if you go to a new car show, realize I was running those shows.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. Motor Trend bought me out. Well, of course, Motor Trend had magazines and a variety of publications and other
created
shows.
the stage. Why wouldn't they take that, right?
So it was an easy integration, in essence, understanding their business model. But at one point, I'm running 24 shows. So remember, I did 3. I promised 5, and that was the upside on the storytelling. So I'm giving people ideas, our listeners, hey, what could I promise and actually execute on in a short period of time that would create growth? So I get a high multiple, no clawback. And then the other piece of it is the acquirer. What does their portfolio look like? Am I going to participate and help grow their revenue stream? And the answer is yes. It was a privilege to help them grow. So they had assets. Just think about this. They acquired me. I happened to be the most profitable entity for what they acquired in that particular vertical, meaning new car shows. And then they stuck in more millions of dollars to do more acquisitions. They sold the whole shooting match for $1.2 billion. Now, that's mind-blowing. It was above my thought process, but just so you have some ideas on where do things go and what are some of the larger organizations, what's their thinking when they do an acquisition. They have a plan. You're part of the plan. So, you can be selfish internally to try to maximize the value you can get for your company. Just think about, again, integration. How does that come together? Being part of a larger network, and what is their end goal? What's their vision of success? How do we learn about that? Usually it's about asking about it. What's your plan? You may sit down with CEOs or presidents or CFOs of larger companies and ask questions, ask intelligent questions. You brought something up really well, Thomas. Generative AI can create the list of questions you can ask on a potential acquisition. Okay, it's not hard.
That is a measure of AI. If it can ask the question you didn't know you should have.
Very good. And that's the beauty if it comes out. It's a very rich environment. In other words, part of it is you can tell it you are a business broker on the front end. And you could say, create the list of questions I'd want to ask the acquiring company to see about the integration and how much I can get, meaning EBITDA wise, on the exit. It'll come back with some very thoughtful process for our listeners. I mean, it could take you 2 minutes.
And also, how much do you need if you think you can amortize all the money in your bank till 90? It's less than you think.
You're brilliant.
I mean, so if you're like, oh, I need 10 million. So I can make 5% a year and make a 500,000 a year, and I can just have that and I'll spend every dollar. I'm like, why don't you take 4 million and burn it down and die broke?
Well,
all right. That might be. Wait, let me pull the conversation back. I think people, this is all pie in the sky. I can't even sell anything. All right. Can you give me some fundamentals? It's for entrepreneurs out there that are in it. Sure. And no matter where you are, you start where you are, you get money in the door. Okay, guys, ring a cash register. I'm going to be really clear on that. You figure out a way to solve a problem any way you can solve it. I don't care if it's Wizard of Oz techniques, Frankenstein manual processes that look automated. Just figure out a way to make that money and then satisfy that customer need. Now, you've done that. And now you're like, holy cow, I can't scale. Can you give me the tenets, a handful, 3, whatever, of where you should be pushing your business no matter what it is so it becomes more sellable?
Some of the questions is, do we have a lifestyle company or do we have a growing organization that's actually scalable? So give that some thought. So lifestyle business means it's giving me enough, it's throwing off, meaning you're taking payroll or dividends and payroll, and you're living comfortably. If you're looking to build something that's going to sell, you're looking to look at something where you're not the key team member inside your organization, meaning the depth of the bench. Maple Leaf, we're doing baseball team. There are some players that are sitting on the bench at this point that we can actually put them in. It's our fiduciary responsibility to train those team members to be able to operate on their own without me as the CEO and founder. So the idea of working on the business is actually that assessment and training. If you're going to work in the business and you decide you don't want to come along with it, and you've got the majority of the relationships with the enterprise or whoever your best customers are, that's a major problem. It's going to get vetted really quickly during the due diligence from the acquiring company. So just step back a little bit and figure out who is bringing in the sales, who's handling the operational side of the business, and who's handling the financial side. Can they work without me? I'll give you an example. Fortunately, I had a business that was seasonal. I would disappear for 3 to 6 months. I had a team, but I didn't need to be there. And I had trained them to be able to run the company when I wasn't there. I mean, if they needed something, they'd escalate it. I'll give you another point. I was reporting to somebody who was a West Point graduate and an Army Ranger. And an Army Ranger is very, very similar to a Navy SEAL, similar type of training. One's from the Army, one is for the Navy, high performance individual. He was complaining all my emails were being answered by my administrative assistant. And only a few of them would actually get to me that I'd have to address. So I had trained the team where I didn't need to get involved in the day-to-day, meaningful communications, but I had a strong team in place that allowed all that to take place without my interaction and only escalate something when it needed my level of input. So just think about it. It's getting easier now. We can move the discussion a little bit to the generative AI and agents, meaning you can train an AI bot to take over a role. I didn't say access somebody, but assist somebody. And Microsoft did a really nice job. They call it Copilot. Mm-hmm. So it's assisting somebody in their area of expertise to do their job at a more productive level. But as we go to grow the business, we may not need to increase the head count.
Correct.
We can use the AI. Because at the end of the day, what is EBITDA? It's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So it's the net, pre-tax. And they're going to put a multiple, meaning 6x, 8x. I was very, very fortunate. I don't want to promise anybody an 11x. But the idea is that multiple is on in essence, the profits. So if you don't have to add headcount and you can add technology to your organization and right, you get to grow and scale with less headcount, each salary's got to be $60,000 to $150,000 a year plus bennies. So just give that some thought. Does it pay for our listeners to invest into becoming educated on the AI that's available to us? The answer is it's really not that hard. You can always reach out to me. Thomas is starting to look at it really, really closely. Sees it, So there are some brilliant individuals out there that want to support you in your entrepreneurial journey, and also listen. Where's your challenges? Be open. It's things that we've seen before.
You're hitting on some big things, and I'll extend that a bit. I try to give real stories with this stuff too, right? So an AI runs my inbox.
Okay, very good.
My team plus AI runs social. I would tell you anything time you're doing client facing, and AI should not run it. It should assist. Just to be very clear, automation should never run it. And automation and AI are two separate things. Everyone, please get your head around that. Mm-hmm. And they should not be put together quite yet. So anyway, that being said, the other area that you can also get scale is in labor arbitrage. And what that means is outsourcing or using a cheaper labor pool. So, and that's not a mean thing, just to be clear. Some people think, oh my God, you underpay people. We have people in the Philippines who make 10 times the average minimum daily salary. So the minimum daily hourly in the US, let's say, is $15 an hour. In the Philippines, let's say we're paying 10 times what theirs is. So imagine you were making $150 an hour. You would not complain about that probably at all. And so what we do for that communities and the people that are there, they are absolutely loving it because it's a much less expensive cost for us. They execute with absolute precision and enthusiasm because they want the jobs. They have flexibility in their jobs. You set the right culture up. You combine that with AI, even our teams, I'm a little more confident now that as you described that we've had the same core team for 4 years. And the reason we pay them well, we're consistent with it, and we enable them with culture and technology. And what you just described allows me to scale and shrink without having to change my team ever.
And then when you look at in other words, the cost to maintain that phenomenal team, the VAs, it's a lower price point. And you're going to get rewarded very handsomely when you go to sell the company because it has that lower cost.
Especially if I'm like, guys, you get a bunch of money if you stay for 18 months. So just stay. They can have the clawback. Like, guys,
no, they get an employment contract. In other words, they're employees. Yeah. They're not going to get hurt.
Or I'll give you a small check and you can quit now and come with me. I don't know what to do next. Anyway. All right. So let me dive into something here with you.
Sure.
So I know like the kind of company that I thought that we're building next. We've already started it. We've already sold a few. I believe will be completely achievable through AI. So the idea is that someone's going to submit me some information. We're going to have contextual data on that. That process will execute with an AI scoring it, saying, hey, this is legit. This seems real. It all checked out. That type of company has a huge multiple, in my opinion, because not only that I don't even have to be the face of it, they can literally exchange ownership and the customers would never know. They would only need to say, cool, we have deeper ad budgets. Let's go build it up faster. And when you have a company that's set up in that way, and this is a services company, it's not even SaaS, right? We can do this with Typeform and a Zapier. It's like, the point being is, if you can think in ways that you can exit a human without reducing quality, is it true that your multiple is significantly higher? And not only are you going to make a better business for yourself, more profitable, and you're going to have more money along the way, that's super more attractive to someone trying to buy it. Is that a completely fair thing in a way that people should invest their time in, or am I missing something? Not quite.
When you think about what it looks like 3 years from now, this may help our listeners big time. You may have one agent, meaning it's an AI bot, working and actually doing business with another AI bot from a client or a vendor. And they may have something called a smart contract, and they were acting within the rules of being able to do business with each other. Payables will be automated, and receivables will be automated. It's something that's a little different than what you're doing currently in your business. But if you really understand what the future looks like, you can start to plan and start to bring yourself up, meaning the educational piece, to understand that the future is going to look a little different. You probably our brilliant individual founders, our listeners, will be able to have a little bit more quality time because a lot of the nuances of the busy work, the day-to-day minutia will be gone. It'll just be automated. It still gets done, but again, it fits certain or criteria or ranges between, a receiving ticket coming in, meaning you're taking in some goods, you're going to have a pick ticket, somebody's going to go out into the warehouse and pull something. All that is going to be somewhat automated. They're picking to light, they're picking to sound, they have devices that are sitting on the wrist. So the warehousing, sort of manufacturing is looking at automation. If you look at manufacturing, they are duplicating the manufacturing facility in an augmented reality. So before they go to change something on the line, they're using goggles or even the computer in a 3D model to see how the flow will be. So when you're looking at this, the computer, with generative AI is capable of relaying out your whole plant, relaying out your whole facility at this point. So when you're looking at it, I'm gently trying to say to our listeners, what would it look like if this was really pristine? It was running really, really well. I had less human interaction in each transaction. Where are the bottlenecks? When I look at my team members, it's like, where's the high value they can add to the transaction? It's not about shuffling paperwork. It's not about going out and taking physical inventory counts. No, if you're going to be out in the warehouse, the idea is scan everything in, meaning there's barcodes, scan everything out, scan the bin that you're going to stick the product into, scan the box you're going to put the product into, and it comes up with a check mark, green check mark that says, hey, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. Don't ship something incorrectly. Give them the tools to be able to execute well. And the generative AI tools in the warehouse management software is just amazing how well we can empower the current team members and continue to grow the company without, and I'm stressing without, adding headcount. I never use the word to cut back headcount. I'm saying to use these team members to do higher level work. And then, look, we're founders. You know what really our job is, Thomas, you and I? We remove obstacles for our team members.
That's right.
We hire brilliant individuals. We get them the training they need. And we don't micromanage them because we hired brilliant individuals to act on our behalf to create these environments that we play well in the sandbox. We care about each other. We want to go home. We want to have some fun. You know, let's run the company right. You know, if we're not having fun, you're probably not running your company correctly.
Well, or you're just starting. Or you're taking VC money. One of the two. It's
well, the life of an entrepreneur. Let's define that. It's not easy. The women we marry or spouses are very special individuals when they marry an entrepreneur. A way to fix that environment is to talk business over dinner. Get them involved in what you're working on. Now, I have a little secret for our listeners. The women have better intuition than the men. The men sometimes don't listen to the women on their good intuition, and you're making a mistake because many of us married bright women, and you should be listening. I'll give you another tidbit. Now, it's not really a secret per se, but it's the way I bring it out that really provides a lot of high value. And it's John Gray. I want to credit somebody that actually originated it. And he does a very nice job in his early material to lay out, you know, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We're very, very different. We're hardwired differently. Women want to work out their problems. And I'm going to say something a little derogatory-ish, but don't take it personally, please. They go on a hamster wheel. They go round and around and around, and they work their problems out over time. They get on the hamster wheel. They get off the hamster wheel. They may get back on 6 months later with the same problem. It's nothing to do with the man. That's how they work out their problem. Where if I go to Thomas or one of our listeners and I say, hey, I have this problem, I need to solve it, I really want you to come back to me with some real ideas on how to solve it. That's not how a woman works. A woman works by working it out on her schedule, and it goes round and around. It frustrates us as being men. But if you want to be a very kind, loving, spouse, husband, if you can just use the words, honey, I understand, as they get on and off the hamster wheel and they work out their challenges over time, you're a wonderful spouse. You have just figured out the differences between men and women.
Don't solution. Men, stop solutioning. Shut up and listen. I'm terrible at it. I'm the worst. I'm telling you, every big fight starts with me solutioning.
Well, if you're going to get into a fight, I mean, we're changing the conversation a little bit, but we're leaving a lot of value in our listeners because we care.
It's help entrepreneurs left and right. Just don't solution your wife's problems.
Yeah. If you use the words, I feel that you're trying to hurt me. I feel you're trying to get me upset. Remember the words, I feel. Remember, I feel. You're taking responsibility
of feelings.
And you're not attacking the other party. So
wait, you still have to use the word I feel. I feel you're an asshole is not a feeling. I feel
you don't have to use those words. Talk about the action, not the person. Think about that. What did the individual do?
Use the words like frustration or overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'll show you something here. I wrote this book.
Matt, I was trying to get you to get that thing in there. I was getting angry. I was going to throw something. Mastering Anger. We're Clifford Locks, Mastering Anger. He is not on the cover.
Anger. You don't have to be angry.
I like to be angry. It gets me focused.
All right.
Gets me really focused. Why did you write that book? What was the trigger?
Well, I think it's holding a lot of our entrepreneurs back. They get angry.
Hell yeah, they do.
You're in a room, you blow up, and now all the team members, that are senior people are sitting around a boardroom. And what is that anger actually going to do? It's not going to improve. You may get compliance for a short period of time. So, the takeaway in the book is really, you get like an aura. If we look at an epileptic, they get an aura ahead of time before they're going into a situation where they're going to have an epileptic fit. So they're in a position where they may be able to position themselves where they don't get injured. They may lay on the ground, a sofa, whatever it may be. Okay. The listeners don't know I'm an EMT paramedic, and I was the captain of an ambulance company as a volunteer. Also a firefighter too, and a hazmat technician, which means, the emergency services as a hobby were fun to do. A lot of learning took place. But the learning and the pre-planning and the execution piece and the after action reports, meaning something didn't go well, let's say on a fire or an emergency, well, we can do the same thing in our business. You had a client, you may have lost the client. We have an action. In other words, how do we go in there and dissect what did we do right? What didn't we do wrong? And what was the learning that we can bring forth in a later engagement with another client, so we don't lose another client? Because the churn, meaning new customers coming in, we lose a client, is the churn. The acquiring company is going to want to get a real hard number on the churn. Are you just constantly replacing clients, or are you really servicing the client at a very, very high level, providing a tremendous amount of value, and you're growing the business? In other words, churn means something's not going wrong. It's not going right. If you think about it, we didn't have the right customer. We overpromised something, price points. We didn't solve the problem that we were actually looking to, or we articulated to a customer. That's on us inside our company to figure out, why did that customer leave us? And, when you go in and you debrief one of your team members prior to them taking a job somewhere else, most people, when they leave your company, they fired you.
They leave because of people around them suck. Is usually
Yeah, well, toxic. Yeah, if you have a toxic environment in your office, that's one of the challenges. They're leaving, they're firing the company, and they're going to go take a job somewhere else. So the environment and the culture within the company is a key piece. In other words, is it fun to have people that really care about each other, and you're creating a safety net within your organization? And I'll give you another secret to our listeners, because I care about Thomas and your team, and you're bringing out some really high value. I deliberately, intentionally overpay my team members a little bit, so they stay and play, and they're not going to earn more money somewhere else. And we get to build the company into a vibrant organization, which, I apologize, I'm going to sell.
Oh, I've told my team too that, hey, listen, we're going to sell this, but when we do, I don't care if it's part of the deal or it's out of my pocket, you'll get life-changing money out of it. And I'm not saying you'll be able to retire and do cocaine or something for every day of the week, but not that I want you to anyway. You shouldn't do drugs, just be clear. But if you have that idea, you're not going to be able to afford that.
Right.
But the idea is my idea is, you sell it for 10 million, and the Philippines, if each person got 100K, that's life-changing.
Oh, that's life-changing money there.
It's that's $1.5 million, $2 million getting and so the idea being is, I said, but I go, the best part is you're going to get fired, but have a new job for whatever we're going to go do next together. So I go, so I got to fire you, then rehire you. It's gonna be great. But the idea that you just talked about is pay them well, pay them what they're worth and value. And I'll extend that. I don't track people's time. Yeah. I say, hey, this job and this function. So there's some careful, this is your role. These are the things, this is the general things you're in charge of. If it takes you an hour or it takes you 80, it's worth the same to me. And so you can get your stuff done in 2 hours in a week. Have fun the rest of the week. I don't care, because I have given you enough of what I think is worth the value of. And some weeks I'm going to give you more than you probably should be doing. But no, there's going to be a lot of weeks where I'm just not going to question anything and why you're here. Very good. And when you do that, and people are on the same page, hey, we're going to have hard weeks, and now I'm going to lay off the gas a little bit. This is important. And another thing, when we hit top 10% podcast, I sent everyone a bonus. Okay. Just not a lot, whatever we could afford that made sense, because they make that happen. So we hit this top 10% podcast. I was getting discouraged, quite honestly, and we hit it, and I was like, holy cow, how did that happen? I rewarded the team, and they were like, oh my gosh. And some of the team members, they went and, they took a little short vacation with their family, whatever. It was a lot, but it was enough. It was like a thank you. And so if you can find these little just bonuses, little rewards, little things as thank yous that are monetary value is the way to do it. And it really, anyway, so I'll get off the pedestal. That really makes and it makes a difference to how you'll be acquired or how you grow your company, because they'll be around. They'll support you in hard times. That's
correct. And the new acquiring company, in other words, they're the ones that are actually adding the value. You just happen to be the founder, the CEO of the company, and will have the highest amount of reward. But the team members are the key piece on the execution piece. and why the company will get acquired. So the acquiring company is not looking to buy a customer list. They're really looking to buy a money-making, acquisition, a highly refined, thoughtful process that's repeatable, that will continue to, to thrive and grow and mature. That's really what they're buying. Some of the other things, I've written 7 books, so realize that my legacy is in my books on what did I learn in my journey through life.
I love that.
Finding brilliant people like you, Thomas.
I don't know
really
about brilliant. I talk well. I'm not
you-
brilliant. I'm not self-deprecating. I'm really
You're
not.
brilliant.
I can just speak well. That's it. That's my talent. I go with
That's
it.
a talent. Yeah, but you're also, think about the guest acquisitions
Oh, I just bribe people to come on. Some people pay. Some. I'm just kidding.
and the breadth of the different topics, how well-rounded the podcast is. And
I have AI. That
how
helps
you
me.
were bringing
I have
to
AI running right now, and it tells me what to say to you. It's not true, actually. I wish that was.
It's
Thank
fun.
you. I'll be quiet. Go ahead, Cliff.
No, in other words, realize
Of
where
your 7 books,
Think
of
about
the
this for a
7
second.
books,
I'll-
what has
I'll
been
give
the
you that.
most impactful of those 7 books? Like, I want you to plug the one.
I want to
they're gonna read.
compliment you.
No one's
Okay.
reading 7, but they're going to read one of yours. What is it?
Okay, I'll help you with that. I ran I was the co-host of the Private Equity Profits podcast, where these companies are acquiring, and they've got 30 million assets under management to 3 billion. The 3 billion company was in Germany. I'm measuring the value of being the host for those shows to your fine contributions you're making to your listeners. So when you're looking at it, we live in an ecosystem, and we're bringing up some very important topics that are impactful to the listeners. And we really, really care about our listeners. We really want you to thrive and build wonderful companies and create some phenomenal wealth for you and your family. And then also take care of your team members. Now, you asked about some of the books. So I have a book here that I wrote on how to be a self-made millionaire. Okay. And all this is on Amazon. My second book I wrote was how to achieve success fast. It's about learn how to hit your goals and harnessing the power of thought and calculated action. We start to look at some of the subconscious decisions we're making all day long. If the goals are written down on paper, the decisions you make, yes or no, to do things are actually towards fulfilling what you wrote down as your goals. I have other ones. One of my other pet or really important is all my children have their master's degrees. Now, I put the spark in their ideas that they should continue, but the idea is, how do we empower our children to go out and do some great things on their own, and they become multimillionaires, okay? But again, I'm not looking to give my kids that kind of money. No, let them go out and build businesses where they can thrive in their area of expertise. And the business, really what we're looking at is figuring out what are the strengths inside our children, key strategies to encourage the children to succeed and learn to flourish independently. Again, it doesn't have to be thick, a book, to provide the morsels of knowledge to allow you to really go out there and understand the strengths of each one of your children. A lot of us have family enterprises. The oldest son may not be the best individual to run the company. I have other books.
I'm putting all these links, by the way, in the comments.
Very kind of you.
I'm finding them on Amazon. So I'm putting them out there.
Empower your leadership, tactical strategies for executive success in the AI era. We get into the details of why AI is so impactful. All right. And my last book.
I love your branding on this stuff. It's like
you're very kind. Here, your path to greatness, essential leadership skills for the next generation of leaders. You could be the founder, and the idea is you could still be a next generational leader, because realize you're looking to sell the company. You may join a larger company as an executive. In other words, you may have perfected something in your organization where that company wants to hire you and your team to come in and actually help them grow, and they'll pay you handsomely for it. We mentioned this, and this is one of the things that's preventable. You don't have to be angry. In other words, you do get an internal feeling before you get angry, and you're able to say to yourself, do I really want this other individual, that input that's coming to me, to get upset?
And that one actually I just see is on Kindle Unlimited. You can just listen to that or read that one.
Listen to it, yeah.
That one's gone?
Yeah. All the books are on, you can print it, hard copy, as a soft book or an ebook, or they're also on, sort of on Audible, where you can actually listen to it. So when you're thinking about the time in your car, a takeaway for our listeners, it's a university on wheels. So what you're broadcasting or what you're listening to in your vehicle could be an audiobook on self-improvement, or it could be Tom, Thomas, you have a very nice breadth of podcasts. They're all available in your car on your phone. So when you're out there and you're driving, are you going to listen to music? The nonsense on some of the, sort of the fake news. There's no shortage there. Or you're going to actually
All
improve.
channels are fake news, just to be clear. We're not declaring blue or red on this one. We're just saying they're all full of shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I have to throw that out.
No. I mean,
I wear a blue tie. Like, why is it blue? I'm like, stop now. All right, we'll put a rainbow tie on and make you all very uncomfortable. And I don't care. I'll rock rainbow. I am pro unicorn and rainbow. Okay.
Very good.
And ponytails for guys.
Okay. So
not the man bun, but the ponytail.
Okay. So the venture capital companies want to create unicorns. They want our listeners' companies to turn into unicorns, and they will give you millions of dollars to help you do it. But the foundation of the company needs to be in a position where it's able to scale when they put in the millions of dollars into the company. So they're putting in high octane fuel to allow you to explode. And it's you and your team that have to go out there and execute. If you choose to take the money and you don't execute, they're going to replace you as the founder. I sit on the board of directors and board of advisors of multiple companies. We have high expectations. We're there to assist you. We'll bring in clients. We'll bring in additional resources if we can help. But at the end of the day, it's your company. You got to scale it. And you made some promises in a business plan. So don't let it scare you. Just look at getting the help you need to be able to get the resources so you can scale the company intelligently. Headcount has nothing to do with productivity. The new tools that are available in the generative AI is holy macro, how powerful and insightful they are. Remember, they're trained on what? It could be the whole library of knowledge that's sitting in your local library they're trained on. They're trained on Reddit. They're trained on huge Google models.
I would not train on Reddit. I think your data source may be a bit negative.
A little
if
negative.
You do that or
Yeah.
Twitter.
Well, remember, the model can actually be turned around, and you can say on the front end, I'm looking for a conservative view on something, and it will come back and give you a conservative view.
All right, I have a question for you. This is a hard one.
Sure.
Is everyone built to be a millionaire?
The answer is we have workers and team members, and we have those that are entrepreneurs that are capable of building great wealth for themselves and their family. So you have a choice. We have the same amount of hours in the day. Okay. What you do with that time, and a lot of it is that self-education. I don't care if you went to college or not. College did one thing for us. It got us to shut our mouths and open up our ears and to learn. And yes, you get tested. So you have assignments. We had that back in high school too. But the idea is, are you going to go in there, assess what's taking place? You got a syllabus that you're getting, day one, let's say, and you're executing against that. And that's really our business. We have a business plan. You may have it in the drawer. You may not have taken it out for a while. If you come to me, I have some of the AI tools, that we use as a co-founder of the Hyper Accelerator program. We run 5,000 students through through that program, just to have an idea. And they've raised over $2 billion, and they're in 72 different countries, So, when I look at this, a 15-minute conversation, I can tell you if the individual founder is going to hit it out of the park, or
oh God, I got to ask the question now. Am I going to hit it out of the park? Oh God.
Yeah. Well, remember, you built something called a support network. You figured out, dividing the value, in other words, what needs to get done among team members, and you're rewarding them for doing it. Yeah. You happen to be the face of the company. So the question is, when you go to sell, will you still be available to be the on-air personality, or are you going to bring in a guest?
I will not be the face. The company's revenue line will be, and the profitability face of it. I will be the guy that made that happen. Because I'll tell you right now, the thing that you said, I wanted to come back to that was,
sure, please.
You look at what's the state look 3 years from now. And if you're thinking about where to spend your very precious time that we're all equally balanced at having, and you don't know when the end is, but whatever it is right now, you got equal time to somebody else. That is a good use of time, of doing little things to achieve that 3-year goal, because it will never happen unless you carve out time to tackle a task toward it. And I tell you this, so like I have a task list. When I had 3 cancellations today. I think I was telling you about with the podcast. I knocked out so much shit off my task list. I'm like, oh, 5 minutes late, podcast canceled. I'm into the weeds, creating a better system and automating parts of these forms. And I'm like, hate to see a canceled show, but I was like 100% sure you were showing up. but the other people, I was like, I don't know, but I don't care because I'm going to go knock out something that's going to make me a benefit 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And that's exactly what I did for 3 hours a day. And I absolutely love it. I was like, thank you for canceling, wasting your time and not mine. I'm awesome. I love that. But if you come on the show, please don't not cancel. Don't do that. Like, you just give yourself a bad reputation in business not to show up. Anyway.
No, you brought something up very important. Our listeners, a takeaway. To be super reliable is a major piece of our success in consistently being successful. Meaning our clients can count on us to always create high quality work, make it look easy and seamless, even though behind the scenes there's a process in place that needs to execute, well. Our listeners don't know, but I had opened up Amazon. I opened up Walmart for one of the companies I played VP in sales and marketing. We had 2 million square feet, and I'm the VP of sales and marketing. What is that responsibility? What is the velocity of product that's coming out of an Amazon or a Walmart? A lot of people don't realize the supply chain sitting behind that and the computerization. So, as you're looking at, you're building something in your fine organization, there's technology out there where somebody scans a product is getting sold in a Walmart, you're checking out. The data inside their vendor portal can actually go overseas to the individual that actually manufactures the pellets for the injection molding. It could go to the carton manufacturer. It can go to the label manufacturer. So every time they sell an SKU, that data feed is available for the upstream on the suppliers that are available to produce that particular product. The automation piece, you have a minimum order. So that factory has permission to reorder or to produce X more product based on a minimum, and they know exactly how many products have sold. So when you're looking at automation, it's the data. Are we running intelligent companies utilizing the data? It's getting easier. All of our companies have data. The question is, how do we get the data to talk to us to actually improve the outcomes for our clients and then reduce the chaos that some companies have in there? In other words, to systematize things. So one of the pieces, and Thomas has done a very nice job. We can train VAs, we can train the team members, and you create a video of the training. So if somebody actually replaces somebody else, you can actually bring up that video to give them what the day in the life and exactly what that job is, sort of a job description, and they understand their responsibilities to do their best work. So even when you have turnover, you have this legacy training program in place that you can call on by just sharing a URL or a YouTube. So just give some thoughts. Remember, the YouTubes can be private. No one needs to know you have the YouTube, even though it's your proprietary information. If you don't share that URL outside your company, nobody knows it. So,
right.
The tools are there. Do you have enough time in the day? The question is, yes, you have enough time in the day to become a multimillionaire. What are you working on? Are you working on the company or are you working in the company? If you're working on the day-to-day minutia and there's chaos in your organization, you're in a position where you can say, I don't like this. I want to change. I want to make a difference. And people like myself, will be more than happy to have that conversation. It's really a listening assessment. If you bring me 3 of your most important challenges you have, by the time we get off the call, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we'll have solved it, or we'll know the 1, 2, 3 things that need to get done to solve it. Don't feel like you have to do it alone. A lot of us have seen a lot of different things in our careers, and we can point you in a direction where someone else may be an expert in that expertise. Board of directors. A lot of our entrepreneurs may not have board of advisors. You may give up a little equity. You may give up, maybe there's a cash payment that's in place. So just give some thoughts on how do I bring together a brilliant team to assist me to move to what my vision of success looks like. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to your kids. You owe it to your team members to make these thoughtful adjustments within your organization to say, look, I'm not happy. I want something different. And then lay out what that vision is when it looks different. So when you get there, we'll talk about KPIs, key performing indicators. or we'll talk about SLAs, meaning looking at the sales criteria. You can Google KPIs or OKRs, so KPIs, OKRs, or SLAs, and you could become an expert at how do you measure what's getting done within your organization and then share that with the individual team members. So when you do an annual review, it's too late with your team members. You should be doing things where you're doing it monthly so they have the time to do the corrective action and you're not angry. They're not surprised. So the idea of having these sit-down meetings frequently, it sets the expectations correct, and they get to ask, what can I do better? What are the other takeaways? You want to see your winners in your organization? Who comes to you and says, look, I have some time. What can I do to help you? And they're looking for more responsibility. They're looking to really help improve the organization. And they shouldn't be taking their monkey and putting it on your shoulder as the CEO of the company or your senior leadership. You should ask them to come back with 3 suggestions on how they would like to solve the problem. And you'll help them define through the 3 solutions they suggested, but they own that to come up with that. They can use the generative AI tools. It's not a problem if you're amenable to it within your organization. So the tools are all out there. Excuses, forget about excuses. Who's got time for that? We're looking for a high-performing organization with some really caring, brilliant individual team members that are executing at a high level consistently, really looking after the customer. We actually have 2 different types of customers. We have internal customers, which is our team members, and we have the external clients, which are our other customer. So just give that some thoughts as you're interacting with your team members inside and you're setting the culture and, sort of the vocabulary you're using. These are clients. Your team members, your employees, or your team members are clients. If you treat them like clients and you teach the clients well, you're going to have a thriving business and really proud of your actions.
Yeah. So let me add, so just conscious of time on the who should get a hold of you? Like, who's the exact person that you can help today?
Yeah, who do I help? It's diverse. I have healthcare companies I'm on the board of directors for. I've got a company that's creating hydrogen out of seawater. I've got an organization that a couple of them are doing generative AI solutions. They may plug into an ERP system. There's a software package called Tableau that's just tremendous. I'm one of the first users of it, but it looks at data and it actually will help you create dashboards that are actually very illustrative, and it's not a large learning curve. Tableau, you can watch a couple of YouTubes. It'll plug into, it doesn't matter if you have an ERP system, but if you do, it'll plug into your Oracles or SAPs, your Microsoft Dynamics. But you can also bring your own data in out of Excel or any other database that you may be using. But it's really looking at creating actionable visual data, and you can drag and drop and you can't break it. Okay. It's not changing any of the data in your database. It's just the way it's displaying it. So the type of individual, they could be an SMB, it could be a company, it could be an entrepreneur. So an SMB is usually a company doing over $5-10 million gross sales. I've worked with Amazon, I've worked with Walmart. So those are $1 billion companies. But again, each one of these companies has challenges. Even the largest organizations have challenges. If I said to you when I started with Amazon, there was chaos, all right? They're wonderful individuals, really bright individuals trying to solve. It's just the amount of velocity of product that's going in and out. Until you get your systems well honed, there are going to be challenges. If you misship something, it creates a cascading situation where there's an email, there's a return, there's freight back. It needs to get inspected before you go to restock it. It may have to go into get refurbished and then maybe sold into the secondary market. So you could think when somebody puts the wrong product into a box and it ships, it's got that whole, what we call reverse logistics cascading challenge sitting there. So how do we empower the team members that are actually interacting with our customers or pick, pack, drop, ship, or using a third-party logistics company to really finitely, let's just do the right thing. Let's do it and give them the tools to do it right from the get-go. So, what do I love? I love, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love building and helping companies get sold. I love individuals that have children that they want to bring into the business and help them, with that sort of the business enterprise. It's, I want you to have conversations over the dinner table with your children so they know what you're involved in. I want you to look at your wife as an asset who's really, really brilliant and has wonderful Um, Not just a thoughtful process, but great intuition to help you and who maybe you should be doing with, and maybe on the hiring piece. Do they fit into the culture of the company? I want you to have written goals. We can spend time on that. I won't coach anybody without written goals. I'll help you get your written goals down on paper, but we'll never know where you're going. Sort of that vision of success without your written goals. So that's a real key piece. And you can add more color or more flavor, numerical numbers to it. As we're making decisions all day long, if you have your goals written down on paper, subliminally, you'll be making decisions towards achieving your goals. And it takes 10 to 15 minutes to write your goals down, okay? It's got to be on paper. You can use Word. You can use Excel. I don't have a problem with it.
It's got to transfer from brain to text. I think that's the idea.
Okay, well, here's the crazy part. You ready?
Yeah.
Only 3% of people in the world have their goals written down. So I'm repeating that, 3%. So to think about it, the high-performing individuals always have their goals written down.
Mine's partial. How does that stack in?
I'm not here to judge what's on your goals. You could either share.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, I think goals. I think this might be a good kind of closing topic too. So I think setting goals.
Sure.
I think the bigger goal is I want to exit the company for a number that allows me independence to focus on high passion, high value, high impact things, legacy things.
Is that written down?
Yeah. I mean, that's like,
okay, so your goals are really written down. Now, when I say add more color and detail, could you give me the dollar amount? Could you start to illustrate or give me a
absolutely. So we back up from that and it creates a Monday board.
Yes. What it is. See, that's the brilliance. Thomas, you figured it out. And
I have a Monday board to get there. I'm not sure it's the right Monday board.
You don't have to do that alone. There's people like me that are happy to help you get there quicker, faster, smarter, with less of these, sort of the learning or the potholes that are out there in life. Correct. And some of it a client may not pay you. Well, the question is, why didn't we put an incentive together to get paid on the front end versus with the dating piece and give them 2% off? Right. If they're going to pay you, they're going to take the 2%. If they're not going to pay you, that 2% doesn't mean anything as a discount. So just get some thoughts on how do we get paid? At the end of the day, we're not a bank. So our listeners, we're not a bank. They can go to a bank and get a loan. So when you look at your receivables, the amount of money that's due, and you look at the aging of receivables, what's the money due over a period of time? After 90 days, it's really hard to collect your money. So I'm just trying to say to you, you earned it. They're stealing from you. I mean, the interest, meaning on what could you do with that capital, meaning if you were paid for the accounts receivable, the payables, they want to get paid. So when you're looking at this thing, we got to make sure that we're setting up an organization where the cash flow is the blood of the company. Between the team members, the cash flow, sort of the client interactions, the value we're bringing forth to our clients. What are we really solving for a client? How sticky it is, meaning we don't want to get unplugged if somebody comes in with a lower price. So we're really providing a lot of value. We're thoughtful in what we're doing for our clients. A lot of the clients, when you're doing things right, they'll ask you to do more for them. Do you do this? And then you have a decision to make. Do you want to get into that particular, that field or that particular, opportunity to expand on what you're bringing to the market? Could you bolt on another module? Could you use a JV with somebody else that's an expert in that field? And now all of a sudden you're in that business, but you handed off the responsibility on the execution to a partner. Partnerships work really, really well. And the goal is to make sure the partner's getting paid well, so they serve your clients well. So,
I love it. You're a wealth of. I fell off screen there. A wealth of knowledge.
You're very kind.
Thank you. Listen, you have lots of books. If anybody's in that zone listening, where I think you probably could take it at any point. But if you're really looking how you can get the most out of your business, or you're in that spot where hey, I think I'm ready to sell, I bet working with you will produce more money. So I want people to get a hold of you. I put the piece up there a few times, but I'll read it out here. It's Millionaire Life Services. That's the website. It's very easy. Get all the books. Cliff, thanks so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. And your listeners always can reach out to me by email at cliff@millionairelife.services, or I'm on LinkedIn, Cliff Locks. And I'm happy to interact. My calendar.
If you search your name, you see you in a tuxedo comes up first. It's very great. Good. Thank you. I'm going to put you in the periwinkle room. I'll be right back with you. Thank you, Cliff, so much for coming on. And anybody who made it to here and listened to the whole thing, you rock. I really appreciate it. And the guests do as well. We're on a mission to help everyone who's an entrepreneur get better at entrepreneurship, no matter where you are in your journey. Learning something from his story, from the things he's done. And listen, I've talked to him before. You're scratching the surface on the kind of knowledge that Cliff has out there for scaling, growing businesses. He's exited them. He's set, like I said, set on boards. He can help you get more out of your business and get it sold and get you lined up to the life goals that you have. So thank everyone for listening. I appreciate it. Until we got to meet again, I want you to get out there and go unleash your entrepreneur. Thanks for listening.